Hi, I'm April Meeker with Second Sister Designs, and here on Embellish today I'd like to show you some basic techniques for crafting jewelry out of polymer clay. I think that most people kind of think that polymer clay is kind of more of a children's craft, but actually you can make some very high-end looking elegant designs out of polymer clay. And the super fun thing about clay in my book is the color choices. You can get clay in almost any color you want, and what colors you can't find on the shelf, you can mix them yourself. And that's part of the fun for me, is I will pick a color palette and mix my clay to actually match the color palette so I can have my piece exactly the colors I want them to be. My favorite clay to use, everybody has their favorite, is Sculpey. I like Sculpey because of the color choices they have and the wide variety of products they carry. Each of the colors of clay, I only have a very, very small sample of the colors that they carry in their lines. But each of the colors are going to be, they can have some glitter in them. They might be a little more opaque. Anyway, you've got all these really great choices. So I like Sculpey because they also have a whole other line. It's kind of similar to, I just like companies that carry all of the tools you're going to need when you're crafting with their product. And that's what Sculpey has really done well with, is anything that you could possibly need to craft with this clay, they're going to carry it on their line. One of the easiest ways to make jewelry pieces and fun ways with clay is to use rubber stamps. You can actually impress with anything. If you have old buttons, anything like a coin, you could use it to make an impression. But I love to use these little rubber stamps. You're going to need to grab for something kind of small because, you know, it is jewelry. Choose your color of clay. Today I'm working with this Bright Sunshine Yellow. If I wanted to, Sculpey also carries some glitter mix-ins that are super fun. I could add that in. And I'm going to start to condition the clay. As you start working with your clay, you're going to notice that the different colors have different degrees of firmness. I've noticed the reds and oranges tend to be really firm, and when I mean firm, it can be really firm. And so your fingers can really. When I did my jewelry line, I did a jewelry line with polymer clay called Heart of India, and I had calluses on my finger. And then I found out that Sculpey makes a little machine that's called the clay conditioner, and it will condition the clay for you. This yellow clay is pretty malleable, so I'm just going to get it nice and warmed up and conditioned. Now, let's see here. Just put it down. And you're going to take something round. Sculpey does make an acrylic roller that I don't have with me today, but I'm using, anything round and smooth. This is a little clay dappling tool. You could use a paintbrush. Sometimes in my studio, if I just grab for whatever's closest. And you can roll that out. You're going to want to use a smooth surface, one that's things are not going to adhere to. You're going to roll that out to the thickness that you want. If you're going to be using some metal jewelry components, which Sculpey also makes, let me just pause right here and show you some of the pieces that you can get with Sculpey. This is, these little bezel cups. These are to make earrings. They also have this comes as a whole bracelet with these little bezels. And then, and this is, again, just a sampling of what they carry. They have this big bezel for a pendant. This particular pendant was made using Sculpey also makes a clay mold making material. And as you can see, I took this button here. I have this old vintage button, and you simply dust it with a little baby powder or cornstarch and impress it into their mold making material. and then you have made a mold of your button. You bake this, as we'll talk about how you bake your clay when you're finished. And then you can use your other colors of clay and press it in there, and you have a replica of your button. And this is super fun if you have like a vintage button, maybe that means something to you, maybe it was your grandma's, to make replicas of without destroying your button. And then I love to mix little Swarovski crystals in with clay because the clay's matte. It just gives that little bit of bling. I love it. So back to our project here. We're rolling it out. You don't have to get it super smooth when you're using rubber stamps because that impression is going to smooth it out for you. I think I will use this. This is just a little like vintage postal stamp. I'm just going to impress it in there softly. You know, you don't need to push too hard. You have a little impression of what you're going to do. And then also available on the market are these little tiny, these are just little tiny like cookie cutters. And obviously you wouldn't use them for cookies because they're really, really small, but for cutting out clay, they're perfect. So you're just going to cut out your project. And then move the excess. You can, one thing I wanted to let you know is you need to store your clay in a cool, dry place. Don't store it where it's going to be really warm or in the sunshine. It will start to harden. I actually keep mine at home. I went to the like Target and bought a tackle box, and I just kind of have my colors all arranged, and I store that tackle box in a dark closet. So I know that my clay is not going to harden up on me. So you have your little piece that you've got all impressed. You're going to take this. If at home when I work on a Silpat heat-resistant sheet so that I can take that directly after I've done this and put it in the oven. Sculpey clay needs to be baked at 275 for every 1/4 inch of thickness. So if you have a piece that's a 1/2 inch thick, you're going to need to cook it for an hour. But for this piece, it would be a 1/2 hour in the oven. If you wanted to, you could add this to a bezel. You could put a hole right like that. So you need to put your hole in before you cook it, of course, or bake it. So you have a hole for a jump ring. Now I want to show you some of the more, once you get into doing this and playing with all of your clay, and it is so addictive. I think for me, it's the color that you start thinking of all these combinations and things you can do. I started, these little flower cabochons are really popular right now, and they're kind of expensive. I think this one might have cost me like $2.50 for this one cabochon. So I had this idea that I would just start making my own out of clay. So I used the Sculpey mold maker, and I went ahead and impressed it, and now I make my own, so I don't have to buy them. And this has a glaze on it. I create that one in my own pieces because Sculpey also has a glaze that you can put over that makes your clay pieces a little shiny. Let me show you, these are actually pieces out of my Heart of India collection that I've done. These are very intricate, and the more you work with clay, you'll kind of get to know its properties and how it works, and you'll be able to do little intricate pieces. These are made, all of the little flowers that are on these are made using little teeny pieces of little tiny round balls of clay, and then I use my little dappler tool, this little tool right here, or you can even use just a straight, this is just a very straight pointy stick to create these. And you do not need to, once you stick the clay, two pieces of unbaked clay together, if I had a little ball maybe of a different color, and you were to, dapple it on there, like I'll show you this piece I did right here, where I actually put little black balls around the outside to frame it. That if you adhere it, it will stick together. But Sculpey also makes an adhesive that will bond the two pieces together. If maybe you've baked it and then it comes apart, something like that, you can adhere it back together. Another technique I really wanted to talk about is using acrylic paint with your clay to give it a glaze. This bracelet was made with a mold, making a mold out of this vintage, let me just show you this vintage button that I found that I loved, and I impressed it in the Sculpey mold maker, and I created these little pieces. Now, they're not perfect because sometimes when you lift up a piece of clay, if you have to transfer it, it does get some distortion. That's okay. We're going for the handmade look here. Imperfection is, there's beauty in imperfection, and I personally love the handmade look. So if you look at this, you'll see each one's a little bit different. That gives it what I love, its charm. So what I did here is I used a white clay, and then I mixed up a little blue acrylic paint, and I watered it down a little bit so it made it more of a glaze. And I just glazed it over so it ran into some of the impressed parts of that button. And then I actually, if you can, I don't know if you can see it, but that actually has a little sheen to it. I used the Sculpey glaze to give it that sheen. I hope you find lots of inspiration in using polymer clay and mixing your own colors and coming up with your own designs and different ways to use it. I hope that you get your children involved. I always have my 7-year-old son in my studio with me, and he'll play for hours. Mixing the clay, making little monsters, but at the same time sitting next to me, and I'm creating these really intricate jewelry pieces. So go to the craft store, get yourself some clay. You can pick up a block of clay for less than $3, and start creating. Start getting inspired. Join me next time where we have more jewelry inspirations.